Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Simple Songwriting. It's Statica season, boys. It is Avenged Sevenfold new EP. Yeah. So if you don't know, I'm a lifelong Avenged Sevenfold fan, repping the Life Is But a Dream hoodie. And yeah, this EP, Statica, which they are releasing under the band name Statica as well. It's definitely been a pretty controversial one. Like it is just. It's actually made more waves than I would have expected it to. But yeah, it's a pretty wacky EP. My initial thoughts, I unironically love it. I loved it the first time I heard it. I thought it was super, super cool. In fact, I was a little bit disappointed. I think a lot of people jumped on the hate bandwagon way too quickly, like ridiculously quickly. I saw people posting videos shit talking it within like less than 24 hours after the songs were released, which was kind of crazy to me because you can't even really understand a lot of the words that he's saying on some of these tracks because of how like filtered they are. You can once you know the words, but and it is on purpose, and we'll get into that, right? We're going to talk about the title track Statica today. And the outro specifically, it's very difficult to understand exactly what he's saying, but I just find it incredible that so many people are willing to just write all of these songs off without even reading the lyrics or knowing what the songs are even about, or even just giving them time to process. And on that same token, I mean, I've seen basically nobody discuss the lyrics or the themes or anything like that. It's just kind of disappointing, and I really wish people would engage a little bit more with the art before they immediately write it off, because truthfully I think this EP is great, and this song in particular is a fantastic song. I've seen a lot of people say that it's super weird too, like this is way too far out of left field. I don't understand that either. It's like, have you ever listened to Steve Vai or Frank Zappa, who Sinister Gates' dad actually played with, or even early Avenged Sevenfold, Pinkley Smooth, which was the Rev and Sinister Gates' project? It's like Avenged Sevenfold has always wanted to be goofy and do, not goofy, but like try new things and do weird stuff. But if you've listened to something like Frank Zappa or King Crimson, it's like this really didn't come off as that weird to me. I was actually kind of excited to hear this. Lights was the first track, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the EP. And I was like, okay, I like where they're going with this. It's almost like a 70s, yeah, like 70s experimental. But regardless, look, we're gonna get down to it. We're gonna break the whole song down in chronological order like normal. But I think the thing that I want to be clear on this is like, there's a big difference between doing something experimental for like an aesthetic choice, like, oh, we just want to be weird or we want to be goofy or something. I don't think that's what's happening here, and I don't think that Avenged actually really does that anymore. I think at one point they did have that in mind, like doing a country song, or we want to do a classic hard rock song or whatever, right? I think that they've kind of abandoned that, and now what they really tend to do with their music is focus very heavily on theme. Like, what is the purpose of the song? What's the message of the song? What are they trying to convey? And they sort of throw genre or aesthetic choices to the side. And so, yeah, when we're talking about something like, the most controversial thing I think has been the autotune on the vocals, but to me, and we'll figure this out, I'll explain this more as we get further into the song, but the autotune on the vocals is a thematic choice, not an aesthetic choice. And I hope to show why as we go through, but just keep that in mind, because it really does make a huge difference in how you perceive the art and how they create it as well. So anyway, let's dive in. It's probably going to be a longer one. This is a really big song. There's a lot going on in it, and I'm going to do my best to present it in a way that's very objective and reasonable, so that even, so that way, if you're a hater, maybe I can show you my viewpoint and why I personally really love this song. I actually think this song is incredible, and it's growing on me more and more. And then if you really like the song but don't quite understand, maybe I can give you a little bit of a little ammo for the haters. So anyway, with all that said, let's start at the beginning of the song and let's just get going. So that's our intro. Pretty long intro, 41 seconds. That's very long, especially with no like significant changes happening throughout. You know, no drums, nothing like that. So it's a long intro, but it's a good one. We're gonna dig into it. But first, we start the song with just some regular static, which makes sense because I mean, hey, that is the song title, Statica. I'll discuss we don't know yet what exactly they mean by static or statica, but I think it's clearly important, this idea of static, and it kind of implies like off the bat that this song will likely be related to technology in one way or another. But then around 3 seconds in, we get the vocals and a guitar part playing the same notes as the vocals. So the vocals are heavily layered or synthesized, and they're sort of in the center right of the mix. And then the guitar part is sort of in the center left, and you can really hear the guitar at the end of each like little phrasing. You can hear the guitar slide down. So listen for that real quick. Right here. You hear that? You hear that? Listen for that again. You hear that? So the guitar and vocals are playing basically the same notes. So I'm gonna talk about it as if it's just the vocals. The vocals are playing they're singing these very comforting notes. It actually sounds really pleasant and nice. It matches up with the lyrics, which we're going to analyze in a second. But the way the words are being said is actually very off-putting and strange. Pay attention to everything you ever loved specifically. Here, hold on. It's like everything you ever loved. It's very odd. Something's off about it. Like it's not human. So there's a little bit of a juxtaposition there. It's comforting and nice, but the phrasing's just a little off. So let's talk about the lyrics now. So he starts off by saying, "Come and sit beside the glow." It's a very, again, comforting line. That's the word I would use to describe this whole intro, in fact. These lyrics, it's like the glow in particular, like a glow is very calming. It you have images of like imagery of a candle or a soft light, which the next line says, "Watch the colors of the show." So the glow in this case is a TV show. Now, one thing to note real quick, I made all of my notes and stuff before the music video came out. So luckily, I think I was on the money with a lot of what I said in this song, or a lot of my diagnosis, but I'm not going to address the music video too much. But it is a really badass music video. Y'all should all go check it out. Anyway, so he says, "Come and sit beside the glow." This voice is inviting you in to join them and watch the television. Now, one thing that I want to note is that it says, "Watch the colors of the show." I think this is actually a pretty important line. It's like, it's not asking you to watch the story or the plot. It's saying, watch the colors. It's like STEM TV almost. Like it's just asking you to be engaged in the most the most basic explanation of what a television show is, So it's like, again, STEM TV. You just turn it on for your children. It's just colors and shapes moving around, right? This can, again, be this tone of voice, like, "Come and watch the colors, honey." It can be both charming or it can be patronizing, depending on the context of who's saying it and who they're speaking to. In this case, this voice is saying it to us, and we're, presumably adults, or at least, teenagers and adults. And it's kind of like, okay, you just want me to come and watch the colors, eh? He then said, the voice then says, "Pull the blanket, gather near," which is, again, we're getting comfortable together. He doesn't specifically reference a family, but it can kind of be implied. But again, this just comes off as very innocent. And then we get the last line, which is, "Everything you ever loved is right here." This is a very interesting line. The implication is that, this TV, this is all you need. I mean, maybe you can assume that there's like a family or something, but I think that the focus is, it's just the TV. All you need is this television show. It's all you've ever loved, and it's so great. And it sounds nice, but there's something kind of eerie to it as well. Like, this is it. This is all you have. This is all you want. This is all you've ever needed. kind of strange. And so, yeah, it again, similar to the music, this whole section lyrically comes off as eerie and off-putting, but simultaneously, well, comforting and inviting, like it's, come and join me, just grab a blanket, you know, just watch the colors. But there's something a little odd about it. It's a little eerie, and it doesn't seem quite right, whether it be the phrasing or the word choices or whatever, right? So we're off to this kind of like, okay, what's happening here? I also want to note, like, we have this radio filter and vocal processing that adds to it, right? Like there's something, this voice doesn't seem human in a sense. Let's not dig too deep into that yet. We got lots of song to go, but let's go to the let's go to the next section here. I'm gonna stop it right there. So we start off after that really comforting intro. We get a very it's aggressive. It is aggressive, but it's not like EDM aggressive, right? It's just kind of like pretty cool little. I'm almost certain it's a guitar actually. Sinister Gates has been really into like these crazy processed guitar effects, and so I really am leaning towards that is a guitar, but it's hard to tell. I'm gonna call it a synth line for now, but yeah, regardless, it comes off as like kind of a metal riff, you know, down, 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 down. And whether you think it's aggressive or not, it is a substantial change from the calming intro and comforting intro that we just received. Lastly on this section, we have some hi-hats to build the tension. Listen for them here. And then we get some really cool like percussive synth effects that pan back and forth in the left and the right. Listen for that. Very cool. And we'll get more of that throughout the song. So yeah, and that brings us into the full verse, or the first verse. The verse music, I should say. So let's let the full verse music play out. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Before we dig into the vocals and the lyrics, I want to talk about this music real quick. So, yeah, this is a pretty wild little soundscape that they've developed on this section. Am I in the right spot? Yeah. So pretty crazy. So first off, the drums are playing kind of a simple beat. It's just like cymbal and snare, but the kick drums are following along with that rhythm. You know, I hear stuff like this, and as a guitarist, like my whole thing is that, you know, the hands have to be in sync, right? They have to be in line with each other. I've never understood how drummers can manage to do stuff like this, just keeping things simple, but then their feet will be doing this crazy thing. You know, I don't know how difficult that is. It doesn't sound like the most difficult thing to play, but I don't think it's particularly easy. And I mean, Brooks Wackerman can basically do anything. So whatever, it's a cool beat. We get an electric guitar in the right speaker. This is actually one of the coolest elements of this song. So it starts off playing these kind of dark, ominous, what sounds like octave notes. So listen to the guitars here. It goes pretty dark notes, even though they're a little bit higher pitched. You know, it's not dark in the sense that it's heavy and low end, like drum drum drum, you know, but it's the note choices themselves have this like it's probably harmonic minor, knowing Sinister Gates, but regardless, it is dark. And then last but not least, we get a filtered choir sample in the left speaker. So kind of like we got the guitar on the right and the choir sound in the left, and it's playing on the offbeat. So it's like dun, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they kind of do a little change there at the end. Yeah. Overall, though, this section not a mind-boggling section, all things considered. I think what's interesting about it is like it sounds upbeat and groovy and like almost a little bit fun and poppy, if you know, on its face. But if you actually listen to the notes being played by the guitar, by that rhythm section, like that synthy rhythm section in the middle, and then even the choir, like a choir is a very dark sound overall. It's like this gothic choir. Apart from this song, usually choirs imply like a gothic or a serious or an epic sound. And so having that choir kind of interspersed in, again, it almost tricks you into thinking that this is like a poppy fun thing. But if you, again, pay attention to the notes, this is not really, this comes off as more foreboding and dark to me. So I think this is actually intentional for this beat. I think it's meant to initially seem fun and exciting, but then a little bit more ominous when you focus in on it. So let's keep going, but that's kind of my take on this right now. But then we get the lyrics coming in. Hold on, I'll back it up just a little bit. All right, I'm gonna talk about the vocals in a second, but first I want to get all this stuff knocked out with the music. So the first thing is the music here is essentially the same as what we established in the prior section, but now these verse sections actually have like an extra 2 measures at the end in between the repeats, or actually it's because it's at the end of the second time as well. It's just sort of tacked on to this verse for the vocal sections. Let's play this extra section so we can kind of focus in on it. So yeah, it opens up a little bit. The choir, instead of kind of playing these faster notes, the choir actually sings these long notes and holds them out. The drums do these really quick little triplets on the cymbals, so that's what that da 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 sound is on the cymbal. And then the guitar, this actually gives the guitar a little bit of breathing room or a transition to where it can switch from those lower octaves to more higher notes and playing leads. And so, yeah, this is one of the cool, I mentioned earlier, but this is one of the coolest things about this song and really this EP is that Sinister Gates is actually like playing pretty constantly throughout these songs. Like he's soloing and doing leads and crazy stuff all throughout. It's just like in the background, or it's like in the right ear or something, the right speaker, you know? And I found it funny. So many people are like, there's no guitar on the album. I'm like, this record is full of guitar. It's full of guitar. Just maybe not the type of guitar that you're used to hearing, but it's all over the place if you listen to it. And yeah, these verses, the verses of this song in particular, Sinister Gates is literally just soloing the entire time over the verses. It's really cool. So yeah, I like that. I'm not going to point out every little thing that he does, but I just want to note it. And then you can go back through and listen and pay attention to his playing throughout these verses. Cause it is, I mean, Sinister Gates is great. So everything he plays is basically fire. So super fire, super hot fire. All right, let's talk about the main thing. So we've got M Shadows coming in with some very auto-tuned, vocals. They are a little bit odd. They are high pitched. The melody is very high. You know, feeling alive in the static. It's very odd. Similar to the music, I think that if you just hear it on its face because of that auto tune and because of how high pitched he is, it initially can sound kind of poppy and like almost like happy, borderline happy. But if you really if you pay attention to the actual notes that he's singing, they are definitely minor key notes. And, well, I'll get into the lyrics in a second, but it is not a happy section. Let's dig into the lyrics, actually, because I think that's where we can understand a lot more about this song and maybe why he's singing like this. So he starts off by saying, feeling alive in the static. Pretty compelling line, and it kind of branches from the intro to a degree where it's like, okay, this is where you feel alive. This is everything you ever loved, right? Was the glow of the TV. Feeling alive in the static. In this case, I think static can mean one of two things. And I'm going to keep this. This is going to be very important understanding what static can mean because it persists throughout the whole song. The static in this song can either be the technology, like technology as in, you know, your TVs, your cell phones, your screens, whatever, right? But I think that they also are referencing a state of static, which is, you know, being fixed in place or unmoving or not changing, right? Like static, being static as a metaphor. I think that idea as well of like not changing, not moving was alluded to in the intro where he says, everything you ever loved is right here. It's like, you don't need anything else. This is all you need. You don't need to change. And then something to note, the word statica is actually an Italian it's like an Italian Latin rooted word that refers to the study of physics related to bodies at rest. So like stationary objects and stuff. So that's what statica as a term actually means. So I don't think that this is just as simple as, oh, he's talking about TV static. I think he's referring to a state of stagnation from like a philosophical or metaphorical standpoint. So yeah, let's keep that in mind. It's gonna be really important as we go through this song. So he then says, shadows moving on the wall. So he's talking about himself crawling on the wall like Spider-Man. No, I'm joking. No, so what he's referring to is the shadows that come off the glow of the TV. Now, what's interesting here is whereas the intro was very comforting with this imagery and this idea, in this case, this gives off more, this is like a horror movie. This is like horror imagery, you know, shadows moving on the wall from the glow of a TV. Definitely a much more harrowing view of the imagery that was set up in the intro. Almost like the intro, you know, the intro had the voice wanting you to believe that it was comforting and nice and sweet, you know, just cuddle up with the blanket and watch the TV. But this verse is establishing that maybe it's not as innocent as it seemed. He then says, flipping from channel to channel. This is again kind of a mundane thing that he's noting, but I think the reason he notes it here, or he wrote this, is because it refers to that repetitiveness. I mean, we've all been there, right? Trying to find what to watch on Netflix, and you spend more time looking for a show than you do actually finding and watching the show. And then by the time you found it, you watch it for 20 minutes and you got to go to bed anyway. So what was even the point, right? So yeah, it's kind of just a waste of time. Again, we're talking about that state of stagnation. Seems to be reinforcing that, right? Like we're just doing the same things over and over. Then he says, laugh tracks echo in the hall. Again, similar to the shadows moving on the wall, it's a very eerie imagery, right? Like we've all played like a horror game. You know what's funny? Earlier today, I actually just beat Resident Evil 7, if any of you have ever played that. And it involves like a creepy little girl laughing and singing down the hall and stuff, or her singing echoing down the hall. It's kind of cool. Anyway, it's definitely horror imagery. Laugh tracks echo in the hall. So switching that, you know, really undoing the intro here. And then he says, we tuned in on time. So this is very interesting. We tuned in on time. The note that he sings here is a bit odd. I want to play the specific note where he says we tuned in on time. I didn't do the research to figure out exactly what note it was, but I think that note sounds so, the word I would use to describe it is that it sounds indifferent. And you could say, well, M. Shadows is lazy. I don't think that's it at all. I think that it's kind of purposeful, kind of similar to the, you know, flipping from channel to channel. He's just describing like mundane activities and mundane actions and honing in on it in a way that's almost kind of uncomfortable, right? And we'll get more of this. I'll talk more about it later. But they actually do this in the song Rejoice as well, where they're like, you know, sign says store, that's the name. Can says food, it's all the same. Or shelf says food, it's all the same. It's like just noting very mundane, boring things, but honing in on it in a way that kind of makes it feel a little bit odd and strange. And so in this case, it's like we all gathered around the TV at the same time every day. We tuned in on time, or maybe it's the radio or something, right? But this idea that every night, 8 o'clock, we all just watch the television and that's what we do. You know, we don't do anything else. And so, yeah. Okay, so overall, this first verse, and the first verse technically isn't over, but the verse is split. Each of the verses is split into two halves, and I want to talk about each of those, I guess, quarter verses individually. So overall, this is we've already established a ton of shit here. So first and foremost, we've kind of I don't want to say backtracked because it makes it sound like he's undoing the progress, but we've totally reframed that imagery from the intro, from like that pleasant, comforting scene into something that almost sounds like, sitting around and watching TV is like a horror movie. Shadows on the wall, eerie laugh tracks playing, echoing. That word echo is really good. So, but I think the note, so this imagery is very dark. But the line to really note is the first line where he says, feeling alive in the static. So considering how almost like eerie the rest of the verse is, the fact that our character feels alive in this state, it's a little dark. It's a little, I don't want to say sad necessarily, but it's kind of like, this is where you feel alive, just sitting in front of the glow of the television. Many songs have talked about addiction to like TV screens and technology and stuff, right? But this is a pretty interesting approach. And again, I want to emphasize, I don't necessarily think that this song is just about the technology. I think there's a deeper idea here. Like, why is this person just sitting in front of the screen all day, right? And why is this where they feel alive? We'll talk more about that in a second, but I wanted to note here, and this is, I think, very important, we have our character who is sitting in front of the TV screen, and that's where he feels alive, doing nothing, getting lost in the static of the television show, right? This, to me, is why M. Shadows is using autotune. This is from the point of view of a person who is sort of wasting their life away, who is losing their humanity to a certain extent. They're getting lost in the static, so to speak, and in doing so, becoming robotic to a certain extent. So with that in mind, the autotune is not just this aesthetic choice that he made to be weird. The autotune is a thematic choice that goes with the song and the lyrics of the song and the story of the song. The difference between those two is incredibly important. It's like about as important as it comes when it comes to art. Did you make the decision because you just wanted to be random, or does it have a place in the theme and the story or the idea being portrayed within the art? They're portraying an uncomfortable scene of a person losing their humanity. And that's why this verse comes off a little bit off-putting and a little odd. And the auto-tune is there. Like, he doesn't sound like a human. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but again, I just find it wild how few people actually even questioned or even conceived that the auto-tune would be a thematic choice on this song, as opposed to M. Shadows is trying to be weird. It's like, since when is Avenged Sevenfold do things that's just fucking random? Almost everything they've done throughout their whole career has been very purposeful, and especially when it comes to their art and their songwriting. So I don't want to get into that yet. I'll get into it in a bit. But yeah, at this stage, we've got a really great first verse, really great foundation for a story here. We have a character who believes that this is something nice and comforting what they're doing, and a voice that persuaded them into this situation. This is where they feel alive, but maybe the situation isn't sitting in front of the TV and getting lost in the static isn't particularly healthy. Let's see where it goes though. I'm going to play the next verse, the second half of the verse. Here we go. All right, let's stop there. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Let's go through these lyrics. Well, actually, first things first, the music is all the exact same except for the guitar work. Sinister Gates is doing more like solo-y lead stuff on this second half. Go listen back to it. It's really cool. He does a great job. But that's the only musical change. So we're just going to jump right into the lyrics here. So he says, driving to search for the signal. So at this stage, we're off the couch. Like he's no longer sitting on the couch. He's moving. But even in the act of like moving and like trying to, getting up and getting in the car and going and do something, he's still technically chasing the same thing as before. He's chasing this static, this signal. He then says, heard the intro coming through. So sounds like our character may have found their show. Hey, it's coming through the static. The DJ's voice just fades away. And there it is. As soon as he got it, as soon as he thought he heard the song or heard the intro, the DJ's voice fades away again. Damn. But then he says, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Which this is very interesting to me. He's desperate. This is a character who is very desperate. He's begging someone, or maybe the radio itself, to turn the radio, he's begging for the radio to get turned back up so that he doesn't lose that DJ and he doesn't lose the show. And then he says, I need something new. Does he say I need something new or finally? Hold on. I thought he said finally something new. But I mean, to be fair, I did put the lyrics here. Yeah, he says, I need something new. Okay. So this line, I need something new, is extremely, extremely telling. This actually gives us kind of our motivation here. Why is he doing this? Why is he not only sitting and staring at the television, but also in this second half of the verse, driving and going out of his way to pursue the signal, to pursue the static. And it's because he's searching for some type of novelty. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but I want to emphasize the last line where he says, I need something new again. Hold on, let me bring it up. So that I want to note, he sounds very human there. I'm not sure if they fully take off the autotune. I don't think they do, but he does go down an octave. And I think the delivery on this line is just wonderful. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm playing it again. Right here. It sounds extraordinarily sad. Extremely sad. Just almost depressingly sad. Like, I need something new. And it's that, it really out of this whole verse, this is that one moment of humanity that we get from him. And it's the same on the second verse, and we'll talk about it then as well. But yeah, it's, again, he goes from this robotic auto-tune voice to that. And I think that this gives us just a little bit of insight into his humanity, which he's slowly losing. So yeah, and even the next section, the pre-chorus actually talks about being empty, but we're not there yet. So yeah, overall though, this second half of the verse builds on the first perfectly. Our character, who feels alive in the static, is now chasing the static like an addict, right? Like he gets that little hit from the DJ, but then it fades away so quick, and he responds in desperation, like turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, Like, again, this is more than just, oh, he's addicted to technology, he's addicted to his cell phone. There's something wrong with him. There's something missing from him, which then the last line confirms, where he says, like, I need something new. I don't want to get ahead of myself because there's still a lot of song, but I think it's pretty clear what we're discussing at this point. We're discussing a character who feels extremely empty. This is someone who is begging for something new because his life overall is static. Like, think about it, right? I mean, logistically, like, if you are in a static point in your life where nothing is changing, that's the person that would be begging for something new. So yeah, I mean, he's he's stuck in this routine, watching the television, which again is the literal static, but then he's doing this same routine over and over again, which is that more metaphorical static, which is slowly draining away his humanity. He's desperate for a way to break out of it, or actually, no, it's not quite. What's happening here at this stage is that he's seeking the static, or he's seeking the technology as an escape, because he's trying to find he needs something new, right? Unfortunately, in this case, it doesn't seem like that's maybe the healthiest method of going about seeking something new. Whether it's sitting in front of the TV being like a horror scene, or whether it's him chasing the static of the DJ, which ultimately fades away, like it's escaping him. It doesn't seem to be working, and it doesn't seem to be healthy either. So he's sort of stuck, right? Like what he's been doing, the routine is not healthy, but him trying to find something new, the way that he's doing it isn't healthy either. He's kind of stuck. I think this is a good place to note that these lyrics are heavily metaphorical. I think that, well, they're both literal and metaphorical or symbolic. It's like, I don't think that the analogy here is that he's literally driving, trying to catch the DJ. It's that he is chasing after something that is eluding him, and it's making him more and more desperate given how empty and stagnant his life has become. So yeah, overall, these verse lyrics are incredible. I mean, think about everything I just said. Like it's a beautiful in the sense that there is so much to take away from it, literally, symbolically, metaphorically, and thematically. We've established a character, we've established a conflict, motivations for that conflict. We're primed and ready for, the story to kick off. Like this has done a great job of establishing what we're talking about here. So yeah, brilliant lyrics. I mean, honestly, fantastic lyrics. Okay, with that said, we can go into the next section. I'm just gonna let it play out. Oh, hold on. All right, so before we talk about the lyrics, let's just note the musical elements real quick. So everything cuts out. This is mainly like a vocoder vocal take. And if you don't know, a vocoder is almost like an auto harmonizer that you can set up for your instrument or your voice. A lot of artists in pop do it, and synth and electronic music. What it is so that's why it sounds so layered, but it doesn't sound. He might have done multiple harmonies, but I think that this is likely vocoder, so it's like auto harmony. So it just does automatic pitch changes. Jesus, can't talk. So yeah, that's what's going on throughout this intro, or throughout this pre-chorus, right? This is the pre-chorus. We get some small little guitar lines, little guitar notes coming in, and they're like volume swells. So listen to this one first. It's on the right side of the speaker, or right speaker. Hear that really high pitched note, and then you're gonna hear it like a little bend. Hear that? Another volume swell there. Those are almost certainly guitars. I think that these little, the voice is singing something very depressing and very monotone, but in a empty, depressing way. He's literally saying, I feel empty. But I think that those little guitar swells give us a little bit of humanity and a little bit of texture that makes it... it gives it a little bit of feeling, I guess, without taking away from the emptiness of the vocal line. So I think that's important. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. But let's talk about the lyrics now. So he says, "Stay with me." Given the musical context and everything that's led up to this point, this comes off as extremely sad. This is a very sad line. it sounds like he's begging, stay with me. But what is he actually referring to? Like, who is he talking to? Is it a friend or a family member? Or because what I'm taking from it is that this could actually just be his life in general. And maybe you could say it's like the media that he's chasing. He's chasing that DJ, but it fades away. But I think that this is like his own, like his humanity to a degree, which he is losing, hence the autotune in the verses. He then says, I feel empty. Again, this fits perfect. We've kind of already established it, but to hear it in this way, I think is very powerful. He is desperate for something new. We don't, like, this character is chasing something, probably not the healthiest thing, but it's because he's desperate. He has a void. He's empty and depressed, and he needs something to change because he's stuck in a static state. Then he says, waiting on you. And when he says you, it goes straight into the chorus. But the waiting on you, I think, is actually kind of an interesting line. We know that our character has been searching for something new, but who or what are they waiting for, right? And why are they waiting on this person? I don't want to talk about it too much. I think I have a few theories on this, but I'm going to wait until we get later in the song. But yeah, in this case, regardless of how you want to take that last line, this section actually really hit me first time I heard it. I was like, wow, like this comes off, it's very emotionally potent. It sounds very empty, very depressing. It makes me think of like an old family member sitting home alone watching TV, right? Just almost running the clock out on their life. It's a very sad scene. And given the context that we got in the first verse, that's kind of exactly what it is. And I think the most heartbreaking part about it is that they seem to want to break out of that robotic routine, but they can't seem to. They can't, or they don't know how, right? So yeah, this is a great pre-chorus, very thought-provoking from just like a character building sense, getting some insight into that character, but also very impactful emotionally. Like, this is very sad. Again, I think it's very wild, people just kind of writing this song off. This song is very, very powerful in a lot of ways. And yeah, I really like this song. Let's keep it going though, because we got plenty to talk about. We're already, let's see, 43 minutes in. Woo! It's gonna be a long one, boys. Okay, I'm gonna let the next section is the chorus. I'm gonna let it play. All right. Okay, so we get the chorus, everything kicks back in, all the instruments, all the music. So first off, we have some filtered guitars in the left and right speakers playing chords. Now they have like a light overdrive on them, so it's not like blasting distortion, and they almost act as more of like a distorted low end texture. Listen for the guitars specifically in the left and the right. They're playing low power chords, just bzzz. I think it's a little bit here, the one in the left speaker. So listen specifically to the left speaker. Hear that? So yeah, just kind of, they're just playing the background chords, nothing crazy. The drums though are playing something pretty cool. So they're doing a pretty normal trap beat, right? So the hi-hats are playing these fast 16th notes. But what I find interesting is that on most trap songs or like rap songs, the hi-hats usually sound very like, they sound like MIDI, right? Like they don't sound real. They don't sound like real hi-hats. They sound very processed. But then the snare is what's most likely to sound like a real snare, right? Like they want the snare to have a lot of pop and oomph. But what's interesting on this song or in this section is that the hi-hat definitely 100% sounds like a real hi-hat, but the snare actually sounds like a very synthy snare. So pay attention to the hi-hat and then pay attention to the snare. pretty cool. Like that snare it sounds like an 80s synth snare, you know, very cool. Kind of cool little switch up on the drums there. The vocals go back to, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, there's a high-pitched synth in the right speaker that's sort of just layered on top of the power chords that the guitars are playing. Vocally, we go back to that normal auto-tune sound from the verses. The melody is pretty simple. He's just kind of singing long notes. You could say it's almost a little static. And then but I think what's interesting is the last line. He goes into this kind of falsetto-y. Hold on a second. He goes into like a falsetto note on the last line. I think I need to plug my mouse in. Give me one moment, guys. Sorry. Come on, you son of a bitch. All right, there we go. Yeah, so the last line I wanted to focus on because I think it's pretty cool. So I think what's interesting about that note is that it sounds the most inhuman of all of the notes. It sounds very much like a weird robot, and it actually doesn't. I think the first three lines sound a little bit sad or at least a little melancholy with the note choices, but that last note almost sounds a little happy or a little odd, like it doesn't know what emotion to feel, kind of. And so I think that very much relates to the lyric that's being sung. So with that said, let's get into the lyrics. These are great lyrics, by the way. I'm so excited to talk about these. All right, so he says, static love. So again, remember the beginning of the song where the voice said, everything you've ever loved is right here. Well, here it is. Your love has become static. It's so there's two ways you can take it, right? You now just love static, like the TV, the glow of the television, and your love is now stagnant. It's remaining the same. It's not changing. You're not getting new love in your life, or you're not even really losing love. Maybe you've already lost all the love, right? So it's the state of love within your life has remained static. He says static dreams. Again, the repetition of that word static, but this time for your aspirations and your dreams, your ambitions and goals. They're all stuck in this holding pattern. Those are unchanging as well. Again, very, very bad place to be. Like you're not pursuing anything. You're not growing or changing or trying to evolve. You're just stuck there, which kind of brings me into the third line, which is static mind. Your brain is no longer thinking. It's no longer learning new skills. These three lines in particular are just setting up the state that our character is in. They are not changing in the most fundamental ways that a person should be changing. Not to say that like you should always be finding new people to love, you know, regardless of your personal beliefs, right? But the idea here is that this person hasn't the love that they feel or don't feel, it's like wasting away, so to speak. Like they're unchanging. And it's very odd. It's a very odd place for someone to be in, for a human to be in, right? But now we get to the fourth line, which I think is a very interesting line. He says static seam. Now, a seam is like, a seam is a connecting point between two things. Usually, like literally, it would be cloth, right? So you would say like a satin seam or like the seam of your shirt, right? So it's where two things connect. Metaphorically, it's kind of like, well, yeah, that's what it is metaphorically too. It's like the connection point between two things. So he's saying that connecting point is static. Well, actually, hold on. There's a few ways that I think you can interpret this, right? And here's mine. I don't think that he's saying that a specific seam is remaining static or remaining the same, the same way that he was saying in love, dream, and mind are remaining the same. I think what he's saying, or I think he's using it similarly to the phrase like a leather seam or a satin seam. This is a static seam, which our character is on the verge of breaking. I hope that kind of makes sense. Whereas it's like, I think that this idea of being static from like, you know, a stagnation point, right? The seam that is holding him together from breaking that static seam. Hold on, let me back up. I feel like I'm not explaining this well. When you think of like a leather seam, right? It's two pieces of leather that are holding together, right? And then you would break the leather seam and the cloth would come apart. A static seam in this case, to me, implies that he is not fully immersed in that state of stagnation yet. But the fact that he's saying static seam means that maybe he is on the verge of breaking it. And I think what's important is discuss like what are the implications of this, like of these word choices that Shadows has chosen. So we know that he is an empty character. He's seeking fulfillment from the static, whether you want to call that, you know, technology or the comfort of sameness. But it doesn't seem to really be good for him. Regardless, he is desperately pursuing it. And this seam, which is sort of, well, this seam seems to be the only thing that's maybe holding him back from falling into it completely and losing his humanity completely. And I actually think that's why he mentions love, dream, and mind, because I think that these are the things that are holding that seam together, right? That static seam together. So the overall, I hope that I've explained my thought process here. Well, I feel like maybe it was a little rambly, but the overall, what I want to say is this is a very intriguing chorus, with a little bit more depth than you might initially think, given how like simplistic it seems. The idea that our character is on the verge of collapsing into static, and there is just this metaphorical seam holding him together, which is made up of essentially his humanity, his love, his dreams, and his mind. You know, that little bit of humanity that he has is what's holding that seam together, and it might be breaking. Unfortunately, and as I just said, like the part of his humanity is what's keeping that seam from breaking and keeping him from completely collapsing into a static state. Those aspects of humanity, his love, dream, and mind, have already become static, as evidenced by this chorus. So it's not really looking good. It's actually a very foreboding chorus about like what's happening to this character, and where they've ended up. So yeah, I think that, you know, when I first read these lyrics, I was very intrigued by that word seam. I was like, what is he talking about? Like the seam is remaining the same. The seam is not changing. And I was like, I don't think that that's right. I think that it's a descriptor, like a leather seam or a silk seam. This is a static seam, and that seam is what's keeping him from falling into the static. And I think that the music video actually totally proved me right on that. I was very happy to see that because I took these notes before I saw the music video. All right, cool, great chorus though, but let's keep it moving. So we then end the chorus and we go into like a short little bridge. So yeah, similar to that first, going into the first verse, we have that rhythm. We go back to the rhythm. We go back to the synthy rhythm section from the verses, and then we have a cool little drum effect to bring us in to the full second verse. So let's go. I'm gonna let the second verse play out now. Cool. Let's stop there and let's talk about these lyrics. Because all the music's the same. The only difference is that his is Sinister Gates. Again, kind of he's just jamming. He's doing his thing. All right. So the lyrics, the first line of this verse is sending my voice in a message. So now our character is actually trying to call someone. What could this be? Why would he be doing this? I think it's probably a recognition of I would say there is something of a recognition from him about the situation he's found himself in. But again, note the way that he even describes this, right? Sending my voice in a message. It's like that, again, we're talking about a character who's losing their humanity, and this just kind of fits. This is a very weird, robotic, inhuman way to say that he called somebody. He's like sending my voice in a message. You know, it's very strange, but I think that it's important to know this is likely. Well, let's see where we go. So he says, left it right after the tone. Again, very, very descriptive, robotic, procedural way of describing a phone call. He's hyper focusing on all of the actions that he takes. Waiting around for a call back. So we've heard this a little bit in the pre-chorus, right? That idea of waiting. I think that waiting is a major idea in the song, and I took that note specifically, and then I saw the music video, and there is literally one of the video games is called Waiting that Brooks Wackerman is playing, because Brooks is just sitting on the park bench waiting, or on the bus bench waiting. So yeah, this idea of waiting around for a callback, maybe this is why he's in that static state, right? I'll talk about that in just a second, because I think it's going to be important, especially after the next line. So he then says, wasn't sure if you're home. He says, wasn't sure if you're home. That line in particular, I think this is interesting because it shows that he's somewhat disconnected from this person. Maybe it's not someone he talks to every day. I would normally, if I saw a lyric like this, I would normally say that this is like, oh, he's talking about someone he doesn't know. But I actually don't think that that's the case, given how robotic he's been describing everything else. I think it very well could be like a close family member or friend, like his parents, maybe a long lost friend or an ex-girlfriend, or it could just be a total stranger. Who knows? Maybe to him, it doesn't even matter. There's no difference. He's lost that, he is again disconnecting from his humanity. So it might not even matter to him who he's calling, and we don't get any clarification on who he's calling. All we get though is this last line, which says just a dial tone, meaning he doesn't get through to someone. He doesn't get through. I think it's metaphorical. So yeah, I think my view on this verse, I think that the way that he describes this, the very sterile way that he describes this action, seriously downplays the significance of this verse. This is an incredible verse. Who is he calling? Why didn't this person that he's calling answer? Why did it just go to a dial tone? Why is he calling them at all? Is this person even real? Does this person like them? There's so many ways to interpret this. But ultimately, none of it really matters, and at least to him, because he didn't say any of it. It was to him, it was more of just the action of taking the call. I think, again, this shows that he is disconnecting from his humanity, of course, but even the most important thing here is, why did he make the call at all? And I think that's almost like a little Freudian slip on our, little robot man's actions or robotic attitude, right? I think that some part of him knows that he's in a desperate situation, that he's losing his humanity, he's losing who he is on some level. And I actually think that this was maybe one of, if not his last attempt to call for help. I think this was an attempt to call for help, and no one answered. He just got a dial tone. Very sad. Very, very depressing. If any of y'all are ever going through something, make sure to call somebody and talk to someone, right? Unfortunately, our character doesn't get that. So let's see where that goes. Let's see where that takes him. Man, yeah, I don't understand how people just write this off. These verses are so good. Okay, playing the tape to hear laughter. So to me, I think this is where we finally get some real insight into why he's trapped in the static state. So we know that he was chasing it. He needs something new. He feels empty. We know he's in that static state, but we don't know why. I think that he's trapped here because this is the only way that he can feel something. It's the only way that he knows how to feel humanity at all. So this line, playing the tape to hear laughter, it's like he's playing it for the purpose of hearing the laughter, which means that he's not hearing the laughter anywhere else. Maybe he's not hearing it from himself. He's not hearing it from any family members or friends or anything. He has to do this just to feel connected to his own, to something that's very human and real, right? You know, like laughter. And then, as if that wasn't sad enough, the next line is spinning the tape to rewind. The song doesn't tell us this, but I think it's worth noting here. Whose laughter is he listening to? Why would he be spinning back this tape to hear the laughter multiple times? Is it maybe his children, his wife, his friends? Maybe it's himself from an old video. Really, what I thought of when I heard this line or when I was analyzing these lyrics is, Eminem talking about when he was depressed and is, sitting alone at home watching old tapes of Proof and his daughter Haley, right? And it's a very depressing scene, but that's the imagery here, right? Like, he doesn't say, but this could be anything. This could just be a laugh track on a TV show, of course, which was already established in the song, but I think it very well matches up with, like, maybe this is someone who had a family and then lost them in a tragedy. I think it's worth noting. We don't know for sure. The song doesn't clarify, but it's absolutely an option. He then says, chasing that feeling again. Which again, that's why he's spinning the tap. That's why he's rewinding it. He's trying to hold on to that little moment, that little bit of emotion. And then, similar to what we had, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up from the first verse, he says, spin it back, spin it back, spin it back. Let's pause there for a second. He's trying to retain that humanity, but again, the way he's going about it is the exact reason why he's losing his humanity in the first place. Remember that stagnation, the static in this case, is both technological. He has availability of the technology to reverse the moments and record them and play them back and exist in that completely. But static in this case also is metaphorical, meaning, while he's doing that and existing in those moments from the past, he actually is remaining metaphorically stagnant in his life, which then brings us to the final two lines, which are spin it back in time. So that addition of the word time, I think this is really like the big line, in my opinion, for this song. This is where it's very clear. This song is far more than just technology addiction. This is a deeply, I don't want to say flawed, but this is a deeply troubled individual in the sense that they have found themselves in a tragic scenario. I think that's a very tragic individual, and they found themselves in this situation, and it's one that possibly can't be reversed, right? And I want to note again the way that he says spin it back in time here. Right here. There is no autotune on that vocal. Remember, the autotune is a thematic choice to describe him losing his humanity. That line, though, that is the glimpse into his humanity. That is his human side kind of poking through. And it really is I'm not even joking. This song was like making me depressed while I was analyzing it, because the implication here is that he's now in a situation that can't be reversed, or the only way that it could be reversed is to go back in time, which isn't possible unless you rely on technology, which is fake. It's still not real, but at least he can pretend, or it's something that he can get lost in. And so in this case, he returns back to the static, the technology, and that state of unchangingness and stagnation that the technology offers in order to spin back time and go back to an era of his life where maybe he was doing better, right? I think this is just amazing. I mean, I think these are generally some of the best lyrics I've seen in a long, long time. These are incredible lyrics. What an interesting way to portray such a specific and yet universal struggle that we all go through. This idea of like reaching a point of stagnation or static, which can potentially last years or even decades, and not knowing or having the capabilities to change it. Maybe our like, to me, this makes me think of like a football player who's past his prime, watching old videos of his games when he was younger. Maybe in this scenario, he never changed or he never developed another skill, and now he's too old to do so. It's like he's running out the clock on his life, just watching who he used to be. It's very sad. Very impactful lyrics here. It could just be that he's lost the motivation, or maybe he's suffered an injury and he literally can't move. But the whole point is he now simply just exists in the past, but not, in that sense, he can relive the past through the technology, which isn't really real, it's still the past. It's a very, very depressing scene, very tragic. So with this verse, given what was said in this verse, I think there was an attempt to move on and to break out of this stage, to reach out to somebody, right? He called somebody, but he didn't get the answer. And so now he dove right back into it and is just spinning back the time on his life, or trying to. I want to note here, I think this is a good place to make this. I wanted to do a little rant. I find it absolutely fucking incredible how many people came to conclusions on this song before even attempting to engage with it. We are only halfway through, right? And this song is already just unbelievably rich with thematic depth and meaning. And I was like seeing people post videos, like people were posting calling this like some goofy, wonky song. And I know for a fact that these were people who didn't read the lyrics, didn't give them time. It's like you didn't even read the lyrics, you didn't try to engage with the themes, you didn't even attempt to okay, maybe I'll just give myself a day or two to process the song and see where it goes. No, hop right on TikTok, right on Instagram, and people, I've actually saw it from creators that I know who just jumped straight on the fucking bandwagon on hating this stuff. I don't think that I'm doing some ridiculous interpretation here. I think that everything I've said in this video that is proving why I like this song has been perfectly reasonable, and in fact goes well along with the music video that they released. And I made these notes before the music video came out. Take the autotune, for example. It's unbelievable to me how many people just immediately assumed that the autotune was a stylistic, experimental, aesthetic choice. I haven't seen a single person reference it as a thematic choice, which you can clearly see, and I've been able to prove by showing that he takes the auto-tune off at the end. We are talking about a character who is losing their humanity to the technology that they immerse themselves in, but they're immersing themselves in this technology as a means of satiating the deep emptiness within them, as a result of not being able to go back in time. Like they've reached a point of stagnation or static in their life. They don't feel human anymore, which is why they play the tape to hear laughter. And that's what makes, and so that's they feel robotic. They don't feel human, which is why M Shadows uses the auto-tune. That's what it's for. It's a thematic choice to describe someone who is no longer feeling human. But then at the last second, at the end of each verse, we just get that little glimpse into their humanity. Spin it back in time. And it's so sad. It's so depressing and unsettling. And the amount of people who just completely miss this, it's unbelievable. Like, for fuck's sake, engage with your art. I don't understand. This isn't crazy what I'm saying. This isn't like some wild, oh my God, he's really digging in here. I'm just reading the lyrics. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And even me, I was like, and I break down songs and do this like just for fun, right? I mean, it's not like I have 1 million subscribers or anything. I love doing this. I'm really passionate about it. And I love Avenged Sevenfold. But even I almost did this song last week, but I wanted to make sure that I had the lyrics right before I even talked about this song. So I held off for a week. I did the Marilyn Manson song. I still loved the EP the first time I heard it, but that's because I was more open-minded about what Avenged Sevenfold can do. But after engaging with the lyrics and reading and analyzing it, I love it even more. And I think that that's how you should practice it. But again, it's just so disappointing to see like prominent music creators and just random people online, fans, I've been an Avenged Sevenfold fan my whole life. Well, then why didn't you at least read the lyrics before posting your fucking comment? Why did you ever think that maybe it was a thematic choice? And fine, I get it. And you know what the grand irony of this is that this song is about not relying on technology to keep yourself in the past. And the amount of people who heard this didn't engage with it, didn't read the lyrics, and just said, this isn't the Avenged Sevenfold I listen to. I want them to do City of Evil. The irony is fucking palpable. The irony is palpable. It's crazy. The theme just flew over your heads. It's hilarious. I don't know. That's my rant. I mean, fine. I can't make you like it. I understand that. You're going to like what you like, and it's up to you to like it. But at the very least, if you are a fan, just read the lyrics and try to understand what they're doing before you just say, this is dog shit, I don't like it. Just try. Just engage with it a little bit. And if you're a hater, I don't really care what you think. You're not going to... Usually haters in general don't engage with anything. They typically just are like, I want what I want, and that's that. All right, whatever. I don't care. But if you're the type of person who is an Avenged Sevenfold fan and likes when they try new things, but maybe you didn't feel like this was for you initially, like, I hope that I've been able to shed a little bit of light on it. And we're not done, but I just... Anyway, that's my rant. Engage with the art, y'all, please. Theme is a real thing in music, and it's important, and it determines the decisions that the artists will make for the songs. It's not always just about being weird or experimental or whatever, just for the sake of being weird or experimental. So anyway, all right, that's that. We get... I'm gonna come down a little bit. All right. So we get another pre-chorus, but it's the same as before. So that brings us to the second chorus. I'm going to just let this second chorus play out. All right, so the first half of this chorus is exactly the same as the first chorus. Sorry, I'm getting to the right place. But he just has like a little flutter on Dream that he didn't do before. I'm gonna let that play just so you can hear it. I think it sounds nice. It's a cool little flutter. Melodic flutter. Dream. So yeah, cool little thing. But the more pertinent thing is the second half. So let's just jump to there. All right, so second half of the chorus. The only musical change is that we get a few like kind of ominous tom hits here. Let me see if I can find those. I think they're about right here. Nope, I flew way past it. What the hell? Hear that? And then we get a little build up. So yeah, that's the only difference is like those little tom hits that kind of, again, they're a little ominous. They're a little like boom, like what's happening. But these lyrics though, we got to talk about these lyrics. All right. So again, we've gone through both verses and the pre-choruses and all of that. And so to summarize, we started off with a character who felt very comforted sitting in front of the glow. This was all he ever loved. Then we find out that sitting in front of the TV was actually somewhat of a horror scene, very eerie, maybe not healthy for him. Him chasing something new to fill an emptiness within him, or he is chasing something new to fill the emptiness within him, but it's probably not the best way to go about doing that, or he's not doing it the best way. The chorus told us that his love, his dreams, and his mind have become static, and that the seam that's maybe holding him together or keeping him from just fully being immersed in that static state is potentially breaking, or it's on the verge of breaking. The second verse established that he had actually recognized that he was in this situation, and that he had actually attempted to reach out to anyone. He got no response, and so he went right back into the technology, spinning it back, with attempting to spin back time, which we know won't work because you can't spin back time. So this brings us to the second chorus. And he says static pulse. And truthfully, I think that this just gives us our conclusion. I think that you can look at this symbolically, but personally, I think it's actually quite literal. If your pulse is static, that means that you are no longer alive. Our character has passed away. Now, you could say symbolically, I believe that it's open to interpretation. He could actually literally be dead, or he could be sort of symbolically dead in the sense that he has lost his humanity. That's what we're establishing here. He's lost his humanity. It's done. So we were kind of worried, like, okay, he's gonna leave, or where's this character gonna end up? And now we know where they ended up. The character, or the character's humanity, is dead. He then says static gleam. So gleam is a very interesting word because it's got two meanings, dual meaning. It's a steady stream of light, like a light in the dark, so to speak. I think that this could be like a TV screen glow, or a gleam can be like a hint of emotion. So you would say, I wrote a sentence down, it's like, I saw a gleam of joy in his eyes, right? So that's the way you would use it in a sentence. So great word for this. I think that you could obviously say, like, this could be imagery to describe just the TV going on perpetually. Because again, static gleam, so an unchanging stream of light. But I also think it could mean that the moment that he passed away, if we're going with the interpretation that he actually died, maybe in that moment he felt an emotion. Gleam doesn't necessarily mean happy, to be clear. It doesn't mean happy or joyful. It just means like a sliver of emotion on a person's face. And I think that you could say, or you could interpret that little bit of emotion remained on his face when the moment he passed away, he felt something, and now that emotion is static on his corpse in perpetuity. That's what I'm saying. It's a very grim line, and I think that's a grim interpretation, but I think it's a perfectly valid interpretation, and it's actually the one that I like. He then says static touch. My guess here is that he's talking about the touch of death, but of all the lines, this is maybe the one where I was like not the most sure of. Let me know what you think. I think, yeah, I'm not sure, but my guess is that this is the touch of death. Again, he's lost his humanity, he's died, however you want to view that. But then he says static seam. He says static seam again. So we come back to that seam, but this time the seam is broken. He's either passed away literally, like he's died and that's the end of him, or he has fully given up his humanity or any attempt to hold on to his humanity in favor of the static, so to speak. So he is just resigning himself to stagnation for the rest of his life. I think, again, you can interpret this many ways. I want to just say it just because it's at least a possible interpretation from like a futuristic sense. He could have actually just become a robot, right? Like, oh, he's become a robot. M Shadows has a robot arm. But I think that's less likely. I think more likely he has resigned himself to a state of stagnation. And even though he continues to live in this specific interpretation, he's not really human. He's not really living. He doesn't have love, dreams, no mind, no pulse, right? If he's alive. So regardless of your interpretations, of which there can be many, this is a very harrowing second chorus. It's a very dark, very serious second chorus that gives us the sort of end to the conflict to some extent. Our character has fully given into the static and they have died. in one way or another. The next section, which is like a short breakdown, totally accentuates this, the severity of this moment. Yeah, so again, that little breakdown, it is accentuating the tragic death of our character. We have that bass synth from the verse just plays a long continuous notes. The drums play these really big hits on the kick and cymbal, ending with a short tom fill. We do get a little guitar riff. It starts off with like one note at a time, and then it goes to like three notes, like dur, 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 and then it does like dur, 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 and then it does two at the end, dur, dur, and cuts off. It sounds like a hard cut off, like it was edited out though. Right there. Like it feels like it was supposed to keep going, but it doesn't. And then the last thing we get is a very dissonant synth organ playing over top. And the organ is playing these very strange, odd notes, very dissonant right here. Yeah. So overall, I mean, to even call it a breakdown isn't quite, it's not a breakdown, but yeah, this is just a short, eerie section that is meant to, again, our character's died. Our character has either literally died or he's lost his humanity to this state of stagnation, which in and of itself is very depressing as well. There's a tragic element to the character, but also, he's done this to himself to some extent. And so, regardless, it's tragic and it's dark. And that's what this section kind of represents. Now, that brings us into a third pre-chorus. I'm going to let this play. I'm going to stop it there because initially this pre-chorus sounds similar to the other pre-choruses we've had, but if you compare it with the other pre-choruses, it is distinctly more robotic. So here, let me show you. Listen, here is the first pre-chorus. You hear how lush and full that sounds? And then we have the little guitar. Those guitar swell right there. Now compare that to this third pre-chorus. If I can find it. Much more robotic, much more like it sounds much more filtered. Less human, and the guitar layers are gone as well, which again, I think that those added a little bit of humanity to those pre-choruses, but those are gone. I think this just indicates our character is no longer human. They're gone. Yeah, whether you think that means he's dead or just fully immersed in the static state is your interpretation, but I take this as total confirmation. Our character is no longer... The character that we had at the beginning of the song is no longer with us. I also just want to note, he is still empty. Kind of sad to think about. But then we get this next section, which is pretty interesting. And the idea here is like, okay, if our character is gone, if we know what happened to them, well, then what's the rest of the song about? Where are we going? Where does he end up? And that's where we're going to get right now. Okay, so, all right, so the music comes in, we get a, here, let's back it up because there was actually two sections there that I went through. So here, so we get a little synth, continuous synth, like a little tone, And then we get those back and forth synths panning. Then we get a real drum tom beat coming in. There was also a very huge bass hit right here. Right here, hold on, I'll back it up. Right here. It's that sub bass, you know, crazy. Yeah, so it's like we thought, okay, our character's dead, but we're going somewhere now. Now let's talk about these lyrics here, and then we'll get into the full outro. So he says, stay with me, I feel empty. We've heard that. But then he says, I'm reaching out for you. Now that's very interesting, because considering our character has already passed away or given up, what is this? Is this like a final attempt? Who is the you, by the way, that he's reaching out for? I'm not sure. And I think we'll come back to it. He then says, pain archived. So that word pain hits on that massive bass hit that I pointed out. And then the way he says archived is very slow. At this point, his voice is also so filtered that it's almost hard to understand him. It's almost impossible to understand him. And given this line and where we're at in the story, it makes sense. He's no longer human or even alive. He then says, wonder rendered. So think about it. You take your pain and you just archive it away. You just don't worry about it. And then this word rendered, very important, because render means to like generate or create within a computer system. So, you know, he's creating wonder. Ideally, you would think that this would be like good, right? He's not going to feel the pain anymore. He's just going to archive that away. And then he's just going to computer generate some wonder. Unfortunately, it comes off as a little bit eerie and strange. And you know, maybe he's doing what he wants or what he thinks is good, but to us, it doesn't quite feel right. And that brings us into the full outro. I'm going to let this play out. Note that he's now, what's the damn word? He's now rendered wonder. So we're going to get something that sounds like wonder. All right, I'm gonna stop there because that's the end of the lyrics. Let's talk about the music real quick. So we break into this very slow beat, but the most important thing to note is the drums are offset to the right speaker. So this is very odd for this is a very odd mixing choice for the drums. So listen to like here's the drums in the verse. Hear how they're in the center, and now here's the drums in this section. Listen to how they're to the right. So it's like immediately off-putting and strange and like unorthodox. It doesn't sound right. It sounds like something's wrong. And it's, again, shout out to Avenged for managing to do this with the mix of their song. You know, they can give you that feeling with just the way that they mix the drums. This section overall, this whole thing, has a very interesting juxtaposition. On one hand, there are these really bright, fun synths playing throughout. You know, listen for those brighter synths. But then you hear that super low, aggressive dum dum dum. That's the juxtaposition, right? This section comes off as both ethereal and floaty. Like he's given away his humanity. He's tossed it away in favor of the static, so to speak. And, you know, it makes him feel really nice. Yay, I no longer feel pain. It's just archived away. However, there's also this really dark, ominous bass hits that hit. You'll hear another one. It goes like here in a second. think right here. Like, so it sounds, so again, that juxtaposition between like really kind of fun and floaty, like LSD music, but also a little bit ominous and dark and off-putting, like something's wrong. And that's not even discussing the vocals. The vocals are heavily synthesized. You can barely even understand what he's saying, again, because he's no longer human in the context of the story. But the way that it just drags out, it just sounds warped and weird and again, creepy and odd. So let's talk about what he's actually saying, because I think this is where this is the end of the lyrics, so we can really dive in now. I'm gonna drink some water before we do though, because I'm probably gonna talk a lot here. So he had said pain archived, wonder rendered, and I think that's not a coincidence that he says wonder rendered, and then it generates this next section, which sounds all computer floaty. It sounds like wonder, right? It sounds like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or some shit, you know? But then we enter this section and he says, love compiled. So that word compiled is very important here. So to compile means, I looked up the definition, it means to gather together from various sources or translated. Compiled specifically means gathered together from various sources or translated from human readable code into machine readable instructions. What a fucking way to describe love. What a way. Yeah, he's taken love and he's turned it from like a human readable code into a machine readable instruction. Wild. What a cool. Again, we know our character is a robot at this point, or static. I'll talk about it more in a second. He then says synthesized, and so ultimately he's claiming, when he says synthesized, that means to like create. He's claiming to have created love and wonder and archived his pain away. So to him, he's like solved all the problems. He then says, would I lie? Very interesting line. He's told us he's synthesized love, but now he's like trying to persuade us that it's real. And then he says, could you even tell? And that's the final line. And that's the end of the lyrics. So let's discuss this, because these last two lines are sinister as hell, no pun intended. And they sort of point the finger back at the listener in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a ton to pull from this. God, this song is so good. So first off, who is even speaking at this point? I think this is important to note, because it's very possible that our character is already dead. So who is this? I think it can be assumed that this character is totally inhuman. Now, if our, again, the two interpretations, one, the character is dead, let's go with that. Or no, let's go with first, let's say the character is alive, like still technically alive, but he's completely given into the state of stagnation or static state, and just exists totally through old technology and videos and TV shows and stuff. And he's basically just waiting for his life to end. This person has given up their humanity. They don't feel regular emotions anymore. From this perspective, he's almost like become psychopathic to a degree. He's compiling love. He'll pretend to have love, pretend to have wonder, but it's all a lie. And what he's doing is he's saying, like when he says, would I lie? That's covering up for himself, but he's essentially admitting like, yeah, I don't feel wonder or love or pain or anything. And you can't even tell the difference. Like it's pretty dark, but I want to go with my interpretation. Here's my real interpretation, which is that our character actually died in the second chorus. So then who is this? Who is this talking? I think that this is the voice of the static itself, and static being both a metaphor for technology replacing the humanity in our lives and causing us to be stuck reliving things, or, and maybe the more important interpretation, time and stagnation eroding our humanity from a metaphorical sense. So again, I mentioned like a football player watching his old games on videotape or on YouTube or something because he can't play anymore and he doesn't really have much else to live for. That state of stagnation that the character that causes us to enter that or to end up like that as people. I think that is what's talking to us right now. I think, hold on, I need a little water. But I think that force, that static force, pretends to be human. It tricks us into believing that it's a suitable alternative. Whether you want to call it the technology or the philosophy of statuses or stagnation, whatever it is, it's this mentality that causes us to watch Instagram reels all day. It'll make you feel human. It'll make you laugh, even though you won't remember any of them the next day. Just keep, watching old things, keep consuming, keep doing the same thing over and over again because it's comfy and you don't want to take a risk, right? That force, that like stagnant force that causes us to end up in that situation, that's what is speaking. That's what's speaking to us right now. And it's a liar. And it knows that it's a lie because it's not human. It's not real. It's not how life was supposed to be lived. And, but it has to convince us that it's not lying. And then it points the finger at us and says, you can't even tell the difference anymore. And I think that's such an interesting thing to think about, that like we have all this technology available to us now, and we have all these ways to kind of replace real life experiences and real human experiences, but we don't even know what the difference is between a fake experience and a real experience is anymore, right? Like, is it better to laugh at a family dinner telling stories with your family than it is to laugh at a TikTok? I mean, if you laugh, if it makes you feel happy, what's the difference, right? Is it more wonderful to learn to play guitar and write your own songs and compose than it is to prompt AI to generate a song and you can get the song automatically that way? I mean, the end result is the same. You get your song that you wanted to hear, right? Wouldn't it be nicer to just binge watch a TV show for 8 hours rather than feel the pain, or use that as a way of avoiding your pain and confronting some of the struggles that you're having? You can just archive that pain away and just watch Netflix for 8 hours and binge watch a show. For all of our talk, I think, as like a species, and especially where we're at right now about like being real and holding on to your dreams and like be free thinkers and all of that, isn't it just funny how many of us are sort of fooled or lied to each day by the technology and the world around us, into buying into these fake experiences and existing within fake experiences as opposed to creating new ones? Again, I think this is more than just technology, though. This is that falling into routine, falling into stagnation. And again, this is referred to a little bit more on Rejoice. Sign says, billboard says you have enough, right? Like, you don't need to change, you don't need more. You're great right where you are. Just stay there. Don't change. Don't do anything. And as a result of that stagnation, we get no new experiences of our own. We just get stuck in these fake technological experiences, stuck in the past. And unfortunately, that creates the feedback loop, because getting no new experience is what leads to the stagnation to begin with. So yeah, the way that this song ends and the way that these lyrics end really take the story of our character throughout this song, someone who was trapped in that place and ultimately succumbed to it, and points it right back at us as listeners and as viewers and says, are you going to end up like this person? Could you even tell if you're going to end up like this person? This song's fucking brilliant. This song is just fucking brilliant. And I feel like I could talk about it for hours. Like, it's really incredible, but that's the summary. I mean, that's what it is. We have this is a tragic, deeply sad, almost depressing song about a person who lost everything, lost their humanity because they got stuck and couldn't break out of it. And then the song says, is that you? And could you tell if it was going to be you or not? Could you even tell? What a concept. here I am analyzing this, and I know that I spent at least like 2 hours on my phone today. It's a Saturday, and I just, I sit at the gym, and I sat on my couch a little bit. I played some Resident Evil, and then afterwards I was on my phone for like 20 minutes. I mean, look at that. Hours of my day gone by. What a fucking thing to think about, right? The song's great, but we do have to end eventually. So let's it's music like this. This is why I do this show. God, fucking awesome. All right. But we're not done. So we get good old Sinister G coming in. Wow. Yeah. I mean, so after the ominous final lines of lyrics, where he says, would I lie? Could you even tell? We get this eerie, it's actually beyond eerie. It's almost like horrific. It's like a guitar solo, this horror sound, sounds like horror strings or something playing. It's the same repeated kind of melodic motif, just with some changes to make it more fluid. But then the drums cut out, and it continues to go eerily long, like uncomfortably long, which again I think totally accentuates the horror of staticism that this song has portrayed so wonderfully. And that's it. That's the end of the song. It leaves you with that like repetitive and it's almost frustrating. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, I feel like you did that one too many times. And then after understanding the lyrics and the themes, I was like, nope, that was the point, right? It was supposed to make you feel like it was one too many times. It's too like I wanted the change. I wanted him to change, and then it didn't change, and it's dissatisfying. And what a better way to really encapsulate what the song is going for from a musical end. So yeah, I mean, this song is fucking brilliant. Like let's just call it what it is. This song is fucking brilliant. I can't emphasize. Well, I'm gonna talk about that in a second. The music's great. The lyrics are incredible. Some of M Shadow's best work, honestly. Like genuinely unbelievable fucking lyrics. This song is basically just a extraordinarily depressing, but also horrifying examination at what stagnation can do to our minds and our souls, or whatever, our humanity, whether it be through technology or otherwise, right? I mean, yeah, I am so blown away by how many longtime Avenged fans just completely wrote this off before the lyrics were even posted. I can't believe how uncharitable people were here. Like, oh God, it's like you can watch a movie. We all can watch a movie like Obsession, right? I assume most people watching this have seen Obsession, which ends on a very horrifying, unsettling note. Like there's crying and sobbing over the credits, and it makes you feel really uneasy. And like it's actually a pretty somber ending to that movie, right? I don't understand why we all accept that when we watch a show or read a book or watch a movie, that we will sometimes feel uncomfortable or disgusted or scared or uneasy. And we understand that that's like part of the joy of art. But the second that a musician does that, the second that a musician makes a piece of music that isn't immediately appealing in the way that we want it to be, it's just immediately dog shit, and the band is washed up and it's terrible and they need to go back to what they did before. And to be clear, when I say appealing, it's not that, I mean, like everything is perfectly tuned. It's structured in a way that we're familiar with. It has the breakdowns that we like. It has the guitar harmonies that we like. The vocals sound the way that they should sound, the way that we know that the way that they should sound, right? Or it's got the screams, and we all like screaming, right? And it's like, we just know, we know what we want, and we're going to get what we want. But the second that a song steps out of that box, the second that it makes us feel uncomfortable or uneasy, like the end of this song when that guitar solo goes on just a little long, which is completely relevant to the theme and the idea being portrayed in this song of staticism being a horrific thing, stagnation being horrifying and terrible and bad. And they're really just slapping you in the face with that. Immediately, though, it's just dog shit. It's terrible. Like, I don't understand. Like, just a thought. Just at least read the lyrics. Understand that music can have themes, and that the choices aren't always just random, arbitrary choices. He didn't pick autotune because he wanted to be fucking weird. He did it because he's actually portraying a character who's losing their humanity in a very real way, and becoming immersed in technology as a means of coping with their dissatisfaction with their life, so that they can feel something, you know, playing the tape to hear laughter because they don't hear laughter in their everyday life. And again, the final note, the icing on the cake here, is that the song is about change and growth. It's about continually evolving and not staying stagnant and not staying in the past, even though technology allows us kind of to do that, which is like what Avenged has always done. The point just flew over everyone's head. I want to go back to City of Evil. That's what I like and am familiar with. Oh, man. No engagement with the theme whatsoever. No engagement with the lyrics or the ideas. I haven't seen a single person even use the word theme when describing this song. It's fucking embarrassing. It's ironic as hell. Avenged writes a song all about growing and changing and how dangerous it is to stay in the past. And everyone responds with, I want the past back. Oh, God. All right. With that said, this is a brilliant song, and I'm going to do my little end section here, which I just developed. You can actually follow along with me. Yeah, so you can follow along with my final little blurb that I talk about, like the summary, right? The song synopsis. So let's close out the episode, though. I think I've said enough. So yeah, what's the telos? If you don't know, I really like the concept of a telos. It's basically the study of purpose in art or in anything, really. So what is the purpose of this song? And the purpose is, in this case, to analyze static, that word static, as a stage of stagnation that a person can reach where they have fully withdrawn into technology as a means of coping with their inability to grow and develop. That's really what this song is. That's what the song is about. That's the purpose that Avenged Sevenfold were really interested in, this idea of, like, you know, static as a word and as a thing. Well, it's really, they were able to find that word that ties together technology and the existential crisis of, like, stagnation, right? And so, yeah, pretty cool. So next we get the genre or style. So this is a little bit of a wacky mix genre-wise. And I really, for songs like this, which I think are the best types of songs, honestly, the genre doesn't even matter. They're not trying to be a genre. What they're doing is that they're looking at the theme that they want. They're examining a theme and then making musical choices that they think abide to that theme the best, right? So I don't think that they had any genre aspirations with this record. I think that they had thematic aspirations. So I've actually thought about removing genre from this ending, but whatever. Anyways, it's like rock, jazz, electronica. There's all sorts of crazy shit happening here. I'm not even really sure what the genre would be. Structurally, so there's a few interesting things. We have a very long intro and we have a very long outro, like an exceptionally long outro, which is huge and theatrical. But the bulk of the song is verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, breakdown, and then that brings us into the outro, right? So it's a little bit normal, a little bit. There's enough there so that you can kind of settle in and get familiar, but it definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't feel confined to a standard song structure. So compositionally, yeah, this song is crazy. I mean, again, it's using everything in the bag. It's got the synths, the 808s, crazy guitars, solos in the verses. The drums are awesome all throughout. It's a mix of real drums and synth drums. The rhythm sections are really cool. That rhythm synth in the verse. I think compositionally it follows pretty well with what they were trying to establish. Well, really, all of the musical sections follow extremely closely with what's being talked about in the lyrics and the idea being portrayed in that particular section. So like the verses are meant to feel happy and fun, but if you just pay attention to them just a little bit more, they actually come off as being the notes that are being played are actually kind of dark and eerie and uncomfortable. The outro has this juxtaposition between these fun synths that are just sound like fairies or whatever, but then there's these boom 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 on the synths that kind of, it's like, okay, wait, something's off here. It's not all happy, right? So yeah, I mean, the vocal melodies are probably the most odd part about this song, but I would say again, it's all very thematically relevant. We have a character who's becoming robotic and losing humanity, and having him sing in that, higher pitch, feeling alive in the static, that higher pitch makes it so much more impactful at the end of the verses when he goes low and says, spin it back in time, which sound immensely sad. So yeah, love the composition here, but it is a wild composition. I'll say that. Hold on a second. I need a little water. I'm getting dry mouth. All right. The mix. So the mix here is pretty cool. It's actually a very lush, full mix. Not necessarily like modern metal, like the new Evanescence album is like full of that really thick fucking mid-rangey. Like this song isn't trying to smack you in the face, right? But it's also not as dry as Life Is But a Dream was. I mean, Life Is But a Dream was like obscenely dry from a mix, but I love that album and I love that mix, to be clear. But yeah, to me, this felt more like a 70s mix, maybe with a little metal sprinkled in. It's got those lush synths and kind of dry guitars, but not like empty sounding. So it walks a fine line. All right, so then we have the lyrical content. So the lyrics here tell the story of a man who is losing his humanity as a result of staying static. Yeah, I mean, he has fallen into this trap, so to speak, where he doesn't know what to do anymore, and he's becoming almost desperate for something new. And ultimately, his method of relieving that existential crisis that he has encountered is through technology, which ultimately results in his demise. You could interpret that as being either literal or metaphorical. Him actually dying or him losing his humanity, but regardless, that's what happens. I didn't put this in the blurb, and I should have, but the ending section is sort of the aftermath of that, the outro, where we learn like what this state looks like, and the final line I think is particularly impactful, where it says, "Hey, the horror of what just happened to this guy in this song. Do you even know if it's happening to you or not? Would you be able to tell?" Very cool lyrics, which kind of brings us into the theme. So yeah, this song is unbelievably rich from a thematic standpoint. What does it mean to be a human? Which experiences are real? Which are hollow? Could we tell the difference? And given the state that our character is in during the outro, where he's been able to archive his pain and he can just generate wonder at any moment, and he can compile love from all the TV shows that he likes and all that. Is that better? Is that worse than real life, where we have to feel pain? Who knows, right? Who knows? It's tough to say. So yeah, there's a lot to think about with this song. I think back to the football player stuck in his sitting on the couch watching his old games. I think that's just like the perfect metaphor for this song, because it's like what do you say to someone like that? You know, let's say he's, oh my God, my light went out. I've been talking too long, blah, blah, blah. Hold on, let me turn my light on. You know, what do you say to the football player who is in this static state and who can't change? Maybe he's too old, he's 70, and all he has left, or all he has at this point, is the past. Maybe he can't move, he can't develop, and he's grown so static that he doesn't even have a chance of undoing the damage. What a depressing scene it is, and could we prevent that if we could recognize the difference between the hollow experiences and the real ones? Yeah, and that brings me to my final verdict. So I'm just gonna read this out, but you can follow along if you'd like. But yeah, this song is truly exceptional, and not because it is weird or experimental or trying to be different or anything like that. It's exceptional because they picked an incredibly specific, unorthodox theme, but one that is universal to all of us. And they turned it into a deeply depressing and horrifying story about the nature of humanity and stagnation. The nature of humanity. They clearly use technology as a springboard for the theme of stagnation, but this song is really about what a lack of progress and change can do to a person, how empty it can make you feel, and how it can ultimately destroy you. In many ways, and I think this is worth noting, in many ways, this song embodies the philosophy of growth that Avenged Sevenfold has maintained throughout their entire career. The idea that being static is actually going to hold you back in the long run. And it's songs like this that make me so happy to be a fan of them and to be a fan of music in general. And that's what I have to say about it. This is a fantastic song. Brilliant. It's a brilliant fucking song. And if you skipped to this section just to hear my final verdict, go back and listen to the breakdown. You know, I think I've spent, this is a pretty long episode, 2 hours, but I think that I have thoroughly stated my case for why this is a not just like a good song. This is like a brilliant song. This is a very deep, philosophical, existential song that uses everything at its disposal to tell this story and drive home this theme of, breaking out of that static, breaking out of the static, right? Breaking out of technology, breaking out of fake experiences, and breaking out of stagnation in order to continue to grow and develop. And if you want to see, that's the chorus, right? Static love, static dream, static mind. Well, those are the things that you should continue. Those are the things that shouldn't be static. Your dreams and your aspirations, your love, the people that you care about, and like the love that you feel for the world and your life and everything around you, right? And then lastly, your mind, growing your mind and developing it, learning new skills and techniques and continually improving in every way that you can. These things are extremely important. So I really was blown away by this song. I loved it the first time I heard it. I love when Avenged Sevenfold goes weird because I'm so tired of corny or not corny, cliche music. So I'm so happy that they are just continuing to go weird, and I want them to do it. But diving into the song, it was even better. I was just floored by how deep these lyrics are and like how well they portray what they're intending to portray. It really is incredible. I'm gonna do Rejoice as well. I don't know if I'm gonna do Ashes. I'm not gonna do Lights. I don't think that one is worth a full week or a full breakdown episode. I'll definitely be doing Rejoice. And we'll see about Ashes. I'm kind of hoping that Polyphia releases a new single in the next few weeks, but we'll see. But that's just future plans. The last thing that I wanted to say, now that the song breakdown's done, it's done. I'm just ranting. You can leave if you'd like. But the last thing I wanted to say, and I've seen this comment, and I think this is absolutely worth explaining or talking about. I've seen a lot of people, for some fucking reason, saying that the Rev would be disappointed in them. I am blown away by this sentiment. The Rev was the weirdest among them. The Rev was the one that wanted to do the weirdest things. Let me be clear. The Rev passing away is what led to them making Hail to the King. The Rev wouldn't have wanted to make Hail to the King. That was M Shadows and Zachy Vengeance and Johnny Christ. Sinister Gates didn't. I don't think he was super. I don't think Sinister Gates was super interested in Hail to the King, but I mean, his work on it is great. But it was him, I think, who came to the band afterwards and said, like, hey guys, is this really who we want to be? And that's when they made The Stage, which is my favorite album by them. The Stage is a masterpiece. But yeah, like the Rev though was the weirdest. He was the most out of the box thinker of all of them. And he would have fucking loved this. And we would have gotten this sooner if the Rev had stayed alive. You know, I think it's taken Avenged a long time to get to this point where they really do just throw everything out the fucking window and just do whatever, you know, just do whatever they want within the realm of like thematic relevancy. Because again, this song is extremely thematically cohesive and like exceptional in many, many ways. Like some of the best lyrics I've seen from M Shadows in a long time. But like this idea that the Rev would be disappointed in them of all people, you would actually have to be a fucking moron to think that. And you would have to just not understand the Rev at all and how he thought about music at all. Go listen to Pinkly Smooth. That was music that they made 20 years ago, the Rev and Sinister Gates. Do you really think that he'd be more stock, more normal now? No. The Rev would be the wackiest fucking dude ever. So yeah, I hate that sentiment. Anyone saying that, you're actually just wrong. You're objectively wrong. Like the Rev would have been all about this. He would have loved it. So I just wanted to say that. And I thought it was worth saying because I really like the reactions to this EP have been mind blowing to me. Like no one talks about lyrics. No one talks about theme. No one even seems to conceive that like the autotune is thematic. There's a reason why he's doing it. They just think, oh, M Shadows is a weirdo and he's fucking up his band's legacy or whatever. It's like, oh, I don't know. I already ranted about it enough. Engage with your art, people. Please engage with it. And if you think I'm wrong, and I'm probably going to make a clip out of this. If you think I'm wrong, go listen to my breakdown because I spent 2 hours breaking down why this song is actually like incredible and really fucking good in a lot of ways. Basically in every way, actually. It's an incredible song, But, you know, you don't have to like it, but I think it's at least worth engaging with it honestly. And like, instead of just hearing it once and being like, I don't like it, man. Okay, sure. But I mean, hey, if you're that type of person, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to appreciate it anyway. So I guess that's that. Anyway, I'm not trying to be all sour puss over here. I'm just saying like, I think that people have had some crazy reactions to this. And the craziest has been saying that the Rev wouldn't have liked it. That's nuts. So yeah, that's that. I mean, yeah, again, like I was saying, I'll be doing Rejoice next week. The only thing that would keep me from doing Rejoice next week, I think, would be if Polyphia came out with a new single. I want to try and catch that when it comes out because I think it'd be good for my channel. You know, the Can You Feel It breakdown got like 800 views, which was crazy. I really want more attention on these breakdowns, not the clips or the shorts, but the shorts have been doing okay. But yeah, I would love to get people actually watching these long form breakdowns. I need that, like, you know, I need I need an army of semi-autistic music nerds who want to listen to this for 2 hours. So anyway, all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed. I said this at one point, but I'm going to say it again. If you didn't like the song, if you fucking hated it, I hope that this video at least maybe gave you some appreciation for it. I can't make you like the song, but I think I can at least explain the reasons why I like it in a way that a lot of other people can't or maybe aren't willing to dive into to such a degree. And if you do like the song and you're maybe a little bit... I don't know what you would say. Maybe a little bit flustered, not flustered. You feel a little bit shy about liking it, like you're not quite sure how to explain why you like it. Maybe this will give you some pointers to for people to look at, or give you a little bit of backup, because yeah, I don't think you're wrong for liking it. This song is fan-fucking-tastic. Own it. Just own it. So with that said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And peace.